All right, welcome to the Leave Hungry Podcast. I'm Carlos Fernandez, your host, and I'm here with one of my best friends, Jacob Whitehead. And we kind of ended the last episode pretty sporadic, but it's because we wanted to kind of chop up an idea that we were talking about. We were talking about the weight of responsibility and how we run from it, and we actually want to talk about that. You know, why do we run from responsibility? Like, what are some of the things that kind of push us away? And one of the things we kind of highlighted was laziness. Laziness is because we're just lazy, and we don't want, we want the titles and the platform, but we don't want the responsibility or the work that comes with it. We want the $1 million business. We want the big church. We want the great family. We want to be a great dad. We want to be, all these things, the great, sports player, athlete, or whatever. We want the to be awesome in the gym and all these things, but we want those things, but we don't want the responsibility or the work that comes with it. And so we just wanted to talk a little bit. We're going to talk a lot about laziness, but then we're also going to talk about a couple other things. So Jay, you want to kick it off?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you were just saying too, I was just even thinking about this because I don't want us to get a paradigm that if you steward responsibility, it'll lead to worldly success. Responsibility is a legacy term to me. Like, responsibility is really almost equated with what we would call faithfulness.
That's what I was going to say.
Were you faithful to steward?
You're just a good steward.
Were you faithful? Were you faithful?
But I will say that usually if you're faithful and you're responsible, it does, I would say majority of the time, lead to worldly success, because that's actually like what it takes to be good in the world.
You look countercultural, and I'll be honest with you, man, people in the kingdom as Christ followers, and this is not an arrogant statement, but we have the Spirit of the living God inside of us. We have we would believe a paradigm of life, of flourishing, that, bro, even our motivation for working, it's not for money. God. It's to honor God. How much greater should that be to our hustle? We should work hard than anyone and rest better than anyone.
Well, I heard before. That is pretty good. But Christians should be the greatest employees.
It's true.
Because we're
employed by God.
Yeah, we're working for God, not for people. Like, we care more about what He says and His image and what people think about Him. And so we're going to act right in the world. And it's crazy that that's not always the case. We're usually the craziest or the weirdest or whatnot. Like, that's not the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be great at taking the responsibility and stewarding it well. But we're supposed to also be the hardest workers. Yeah.
I think that's what keeps us, to your point, stewarding responsibility. Because if you can even recognize it as a gift, that doesn't mean you've accepted how hard it is.
Yeah.
Because nothing, again, all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant.
Yeah.
My cultivating, and I think we said this a couple episodes ago, until you learn to see the calling of Jesus as beautiful, you'll never embrace it.
No.
Like, until Ephesians 5 for me and you becomes a beautiful calling of God honoring what headship is biblically, the call to die first, because my role as a husband is to image Christ to the church. Like what Christ did for the church, which was laying His life down. Like Paul even defines, what is headship? Laying your life down, being a sacrifice, going first, using all of your energy as a man to make much of your wife. And until I find that beautiful, until I push away my preferences, until I say, well, because she doesn't this and she doesn't this and she doesn't this, until I say, no, that call in Ephesians 5 speaks to the longing in my heart, and that's beautiful to me, I'll never embrace the responsibility to be the husband God's calling me to be.
Yeah.
So there's a work required of it, but you'll never do the work until you find it beautiful.
Yeah, or see the purpose in it, you know? One of the things that just sparked an idea was that the reason we don't take on the responsibility that we're supposed to, or the reasons we don't work as hard as we're supposed to, is because we're always trying to change people instead of trying to change us. That's actually one of the best lessons that you can learn. You cannot change people. Like, stop trying to change everybody around you, and how about you just change? And then the next thing is that, like, we don't like hard work. And you know what? Hard work, like, if you don't like hard work and you're just lazy, it's going to lead to poverty. And not just poverty in the material world, but it's going to lead to a impoverished soul, poverty in your relationships, poverty all around. And there's a proverb that says a little more sleep, a little more slumber, a little of the folding of the hands rest, and poverty pouncing on you like a bandit, like a thief in the night. That's going to happen if you don't take the responsibility and work hard in every area of life. You know, you have poor relationships. be intentional. Work hard in them. You have a poor work balance or whatever, work life, like work hard in your job. Like stop complaining and just start working.
Yeah.
You know, you have a poverty in your marriage, like your relationship's not good with your wife, with your kids, right? Work hard, be intentional.
Yeah.
You know, but if you're always being lazy, you get home and you just turn on the TV and you don't really do things. You really don't serve. You really don't love. You go to work, you just do your thing, and you don't really talk to people. Like you go to church. I mean, a lot of people have poverty in their church community. They go to church, they worship, they listen to the message, and then they go home.
Yeah.
And then they say, "Oh, I tried it. Nobody really talked to me." You ain't talked to nobody. You ain't work hard in that. It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
And then we say, "Oh, those people just weren't for me. Those people aren't like me." That's a lie. You know what we have in common is Jesus. Most of the friends that I have now, like, dude, we don't even like the same stuff.
Yeah.
You know, most of my friends don't even play basketball. They don't like basketball. They hate it. We love Jesus.
Yeah.
And we can be friends. We can hang out. We can talk. You know, we have two things in common. We love Jesus and we're sinners. So we have common ground every single time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, like, when we run away from responsibility and from hard work, poverty will pounce on us like a bandit, like a thief in the night, in every area of your life. I think about, even you can talk about in health, laziness in your physical fitness and your health.
Yeah.
Like a thief in the night, it's going to come all of a sudden. Now, I mean, for me, I'm diabetic.
Yeah.
It just showed up. Eating like crap.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, I'm a type 2 diabetic. Why? Because I was lazy. I was eating whatever I wanted to. I never worked out really, you know? And so for us, like, if you don't take responsibility, like, it will affect you, it will hurt you, you know? And you got to stop running from it. You got to take responsibility and stop worrying about everybody else. Just worry about you for right now. And I don't mean that in a selfish way. When you start to take care of yourself, right? Love yourself, and then love others as you love yourself. Like, it's gonna push you, especially if you're taking the right actions. Like, if you're spending time with Jesus and you're being transformed by Him and all these things, like, that's gonna push you to love people and love people well. Right. But when you're healthy, I mean, you can love others well too. You know, like when you're you have a healthy headspace and physically healthy, emotionally healthy, financially healthy.
Yeah. Well, it's just the principle. Like, you can't give anything to anyone you haven't first received. Yeah. The capacity that you love is the capacity that you've received love. The capacity that you hurt comes from the capacity that you've been hurt. Like that's a paradigm, or excuse me, a pendulum that can keep swinging on either side. And so, like, I even what you were just saying too, because I think laziness is a undergird, because it's funny, and I'm not saying because the flesh can rear its head in so many different ways, where some people have a bent towards laziness, and some people, laziness is a managing of something deeper. Like, I could think about me, like, I handle stress primarily one way, but I've handled it other ways. So for me, primarily, when I get anxious or stressed, I double down. I'm going to say, I'll take more load on. If something's stressing me out in my mind, I'm going to say, I'm going to put more into this. But there's also times where I'm saying, you know what? I just don't care. And I retreat. Where some people have a default towards retreating or things where they stress. So it's so funny, because Matt Chandler, he said this one time, and he was just, and I think it's a strong call for men. He said, men, you should come home from work exhausted. Yeah. You should pray to God. God, I need strength right now to go love my wife and love my kids well. You get out of your car and you go love the crap out of your wife and love the crap out of your kids, and you hit your head in the bed. You're exhausted. You wake up. Because again, like we said, responsibility, number one, everyone has some to steward. And it's either going to crush you and keep you down, or crush you, and if you receive what it's trying to do, again, as a gift to steward, will build you back up stronger and stronger and stronger, to where, like, when you come home, a lot of people, they might not have been lazy at work. They're just so exhausted and so stressed. So they come home and they're thinking, I just need to veg out on the TV. I don't have time for my marriage. Like, if my wife would just understand right now how hard work was, then she'd be okay. But you're stewarding a responsibility that's almost responsibility doesn't care about bad tendencies, or which we would even call almost neutral tendencies. Like, watching TV is not morally good or bad, but when time's on the line and time's the currency that we're dealing with, and a marriage is on the line, it's a waste of time, which is bad stewardship. Yeah. And so I just think there's laziness is usually a byproduct of how stressed we are, how busy we are. And so here's the thing. if you're not busy to steward, if you're too busy to steward responsibility, because we've done an episode on
busyness. Yeah.
busyness. I think these go hand in hand here, because if you're too busy to steward the things that are most important, you're too busy, and you have to make some hard decisions, and that's part of responsibility.
Yeah.
Andy Stanley had a book. I think they changed the title of it. The
Yeah,
title of it.
You mentioned
It's
it
called
before.
Choose to Cheat.
Yeah.
I think he had to change the title because it didn't sound amazing though.
Yeah.
But now it's called When Work and Family Collide. But what he was saying
That's
was
a way better title.
yeah. Well, and Andy likes to make the real sticky comments.
Yeah.
But the whole principle behind the book was everything you say yes to is a no to something, and everything you say no to something is a yes to something.
Yeah.
So you have to be wise in, hey, is working 70 hours for, and this is fun. This is even secular wisdom that I'm about to say. Andrew Tate made a joke, and he's an interesting feller, but he made a statement that I was like, yeah, why do people not get this? He said, you work your whole life missing your marriage, missing your kids, because you're saying, man, when I'm 60, I'll be able to provide for them the life, be able to vacation with them. We'll have all the money in the world. And he says, and then you get to 60 and your wife and your kids were just like, where were you at for 30 years? We don't want this life. We wanted you present now. And I'm thinking like, man, he gets this, and he don't even call himself a Christ follower.
Yeah.
This is just a stewardship principle of, look, man, if you're too busy, like, number one, we talked about this. It's been kind of this whole segment we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. If you're too busy to spend time with God, you're too busy. If you're too busy to spend time with your wife, you're too busy. If you're too busy not to be a present dad or a present mom, you're too busy. If you're too busy to not, like, you should be able to steward everything, and it should leave you feeling depleted so you can get replenished, but not miss the things that matter.
Yeah. No, that's so good. Stephen Covey said that we need to stop spending time and start investing time. Right. And he also said this. He says the key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule. The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. And I just thought that was so good. Like, you want to fight against laziness and running away from responsibility, just schedule your priorities. And in Colossians 4 verses 2-6, it says, make the best use of your time. The best use of your time.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, again, the fruit of laziness is poverty. The fruit of it. You're not going to be lazy and be successful. And we're not talking about success in a bank account.
Yeah.
We're talking about success in your marriage, your friendship, your
walk with
church,
Jesus.
your discipleship, your walk with Jesus, your family, your job. Like, success doesn't always have dollar signs next to them, but they have great marriages next to them. You know, they have great relationships next to them. You know, like that's what you need to do. And you need to invest in it. Like, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it.
Yeah.
You know, I always, and I know this is going to sound weird, but I always envy the parents that have great relationship with their kids. Right, like the dads and sons and whatnot. Like, me and my mom have a pretty good relationship, but I just see, like, I wish I would have had an amazing relationship with my dad, at least early in life. Later in life, our relationship was way better. But just hearing the things that the kids used to do with their fathers, like go play sports and go here and do all these things, like, I envied that. But that was that dad investing in their kid. You know, I'm about to read a book called Crazy for the Storm. And it was about this guy's writing the story about the way his dad invested in him. And pretty much he invested him in such a way that there was a point when he was young that something tragic happened that it saved his life, you know? And it was because of his dad's investment in him early on, that he wanted to make sure that his kid knew the way to live, so that in case anything ever happened, he would know exactly what to do. And so for us, like, our relationships, our responsibilities cannot afford for us to be lazy. And so is this call, you know, for you to not just do more, to be more. And I think that's what, you know, Jesus kind of calls us to. Like, the Christian life can't afford for you to be lazy. There are people dying of sin, you know, on their way to hell. And we're being lazy because us as Christians, we don't know the gospel. We don't pray for our friends. We don't tell them. We don't share Jesus with them. We don't even do the easiest thing we could do, and that's invite them to church. Like, that's a low bar thing. just inviting somebody to go with you to sit for a couple hours on a Sunday, right? We can invite them to go see Deadpool, but we can't invite them to church. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
But just seeing those things, those small things, like you can't afford to be lazy, man. Like you don't know when your friends are going to be here and when they're not. You know, like they're here one day and gone the next, like a vapor, like a mist is what they call it. The days are evil. Like, so for us, the responsibility, like you need to take it on and steward it well. Like you have been given a seat at some people's tables that will never like walk into church. Never. Like it doesn't matter. But they'll come to your table, they'll come to your house, and you can share the hope that you have with them, But it's the fact that we're lazy, that we don't like the responsibility, that we're running away. We're too busy to share the gospel. Ain't that crazy? Well, like if we get to heaven and God says, "Hey, why didn't you share the gospel?" Oh, God, I was too busy working.
Yeah, it's like, if you're too busy to love your neighbor, you're too busy.
Yeah.
I just think too, 2 Corinthians 5, Paul says we are, listen to the word, entrusted with the gospel as ambassadors. What does entrust mean? I've entrusted you with a sense of responsibility to steward this good news.
Yeah, it's trust.
It's trust.
He trusts you. Ain't that beautiful?
Yeah.
That the God of heaven, creator of everything, the universe, the planets, the sun, the stars, the earth, every single body on the earth, He's entrusted you with telling people about His Son to go to your neighbors and the nations.
Yeah.
Ain't that amazing?
Yeah.
And we run from it, but it's a play from the devil that he loves. He wants you to be lazy. He wants you to self-indulge. The world, the flesh, and the devil, that's what they push you to. The flesh tells you that self-indulgence and self-gratification or instant gratification is what you want, right? And the world's kind of promoting, do what you do, live your life, and then the devil's over here just kind of twisting things, and then you're just believing it.
Yeah.
Like you have tomorrow. Like that's a lie that we have, I mean, God forbid anything happens to us, but tomorrow's not promised. Today, right now, this is what we have, and just taking hold of it and taking, and that's why, like, if we become more responsible as followers of Jesus, man, the world will change.
Yeah, 100%.
If we just take the responsibility for our families.
Well, and I think too, and we can probably end on this note, as we're kind of again shifting, redeeming this paradigm of responsibility, we can let fear. I think fear would be the last one I would say.
Yeah, that's one.
Fear of the responsibility, fear of failure, fear of messing it up, fear of missing out. We are in a day and age right now, and especially as followers of Jesus, we're about to enter into a season, very sensitive times politically. We're about to see the I just had this, Venom from Marvel. He attaches, what he does is the symbiote. He attaches as an external force, and all he does is he brings out the worst characteristics of what of the person he's controlling, right?
Yeah.
We're about to enter into a season where there's going to be a force, because we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, that's going to express all of the depravity of humanity. And we still have a responsibility to be light. We have a responsibility to speak truth. We have a responsibility to still love. We have a responsibility to disagree and still be unified under the same name of Jesus. We have a responsibility to keep fighting for our marriages. We have a responsibility to keep fighting for our kids, for our friends, for those far from God. We cannot lose the urgency, but I promise if we are fearful, if we fall into despair, we will crumble and be crushed by the weight of responsibility. But if we remember, and this is in John Tyson's in Jefferson Bethke's book, he used a picture of, imagine you're in war fighting, and you've seen your comrade die over and over and over again. You've killed enemy after enemy. You've been warring. You don't know what day it is. You don't know what time it is. You forget and you're hungry. You feel tired. You feel exhausted. It's just kill after kill, noise after noise. Everything is just so beyond at this point. Like you're just so blah to everything. And you're is this ever going to end? Is there an end of all of this? Another comrade dead, another person down. And then you hear, and they're not even there yet, but you hear trumpets of the ships behind you. and you get this resurgence of energy. I'm still fighting. I got to keep going. You were falling into despair because of just the mundaneness of everything. More chaos, more darkness, more evil, more sorrow. But then you hear the trumpet sound, and they haven't even aided you in the battle yet. You can feel hope stirring back in your bones, saying, no, I got to keep going. I got to keep fighting. I can't stop. Can I tell every single one of us something? Number one, that trumpet's going to sound. And he asked us to stay ready. The foolish servant is the one found asleep when the master returns home. We have a responsibility to stay ready. We cannot let despair capture us.
Yeah, or fear.
We were made for a time as this. The church is here today because Jesus said the gates of hell will not prevail against it. We cannot despair. We have been called into hope, and we have a future hope and a living hope and a hope that Jesus is coming back one day. And so we cannot compromise and we cannot be crushed by responsibility. We must steward it and we must keep going. And so we have to look at fear and say this is not an option. Because when we fall into fear, we fall into despair and then into death. We can't.
Yeah, no, that's so good. I think Matt Chandler wrote a book. I forgot the name of it, man. It's a little book. It's all about take hold, or golly, what's it called?
Is it the lion one? One with the lion on the cover?
Yeah.
Take heart?
Take heart.
Yeah.
And he says in it, like, it's a great time to be a Christian.
100%.
That this is when Christianity has its back against the wall, is when it grew.
Yeah.
When persecution, when a lot of things were going on, is when the church exploded. It's a great time to be a Christian. And like that, man, we can talk more, and it'd be cool to do an episode on just fear, like how do we fight against fear? What are the lies the enemy gives us for us to be afraid, and how do we combat against that, and how do we use the tools that God has given us, prayer and the Word of God, and how do we access just the power from heaven to fight against all those things. But man, this was good. So
let's go.
But hey, we love you guys, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.